Blackstone Corporation wasn't just one of the country's most influential companies. It was an empire, and Leonardo Moretti, its CEO, was its absolute commander. He was the kind of man who believed the world revolved around him, that his words were law, and that everyone around him was there to serve him. His smile was rarely seen, and his patience for mistakes even rarer. He was known for being cold, ruthless, always seeking more power, more control. But alongside his arrogance and unquestioned power, there was someone he barely even noticed: Clara. Clara, a young woman of 23 who just joined the company, saw Blackstone as the place where her talent and dedication would finally be recognized. Coming from a small town, she knew she'd have to fight hard to prove herself. She was hopeful, determined, but she had no idea what awaited her. She didn't know she would be just another pawn in Leonardo's chess game, to be discarded at his whim. The conference room was full, the air tense. Clara stood before a group of executives, ready to present her analysis on Blackstone's new international expansion opportunities. She had prepared for weeks, but the nerves still lingered. She glanced at the large glass screen in front of her, observing the images projected with her conclusions, and began to speak. Her voice trembled slightly, but she maintained her posture, trying to project confidence. "Gentlemen, as we can see," that was when her eyes caught a data point on the screen. A small error, an outdated figure. Clara, so absorbed in her presentation, didn't notice the slip. She continued, attempting to convey a sense of assurance, but before she could finish, a sharp voice cut her off. "This is unacceptable." Leonardo's voice sounded like thunder. He stood with his arms crossed, his cold gaze fixed on Clara. She felt a chill but tried to keep her composure. "You're presenting outdated information, Clara," he continued, a sarcastic smile on his lips. "How can anyone trust the work of someone who doesn't even know the basics?" He took a step forward, his tone now cruel and relentless. "I have to wonder how you even got hired here." Clara swallowed hard, her hands beginning to sweat. She didn't know what to say. The silence in the room was deafening. Everyone was watching her, waiting for her response. But she said nothing. Leonardo's words felt like knives, cutting deep. "This company cannot afford employees like this. Perhaps it would be best for everyone if you sought other opportunities. We're not here to play games." Clara's face burned with shame, but she held back her tears. She didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. With a low, firm voice, she simply responded, "Understood, Mr. Moretti. I'll correct the mistake right away." She turned quickly and left the room, feeling the weight of humiliation pressing down on her. The pain in her chest was overwhelming, but she knew she had to keep going. One thing was clear: she wouldn't let herself be another victim of this man. The following days were tormenting for Clara. She poured even more effort into her work, doubling down to prove she was capable, but Leonardo's words still echoed in her mind. Then, one morning, news spread across the company. Leonardo Moretti had been in a car accident. He was in the hospital, in serious condition, with fractures that left him temporarily unable to walk. The accident's impact was big, but what truly shocked everyone was Leonardo's response to his new situation. Once so independent, so powerful, he was now vulnerable. He depended on others for simple tasks: eating, bathing, getting out of bed. And unlike his former ruthless commands, now he was completely alone. His family, distant and resentful of his behavior, hadn't shown up to help him. Friends and colleagues were either too busy or, as many suspected, didn't want to get involved with the monster he had become. That was when Clara heard the rumors. Something stirred in her heart. Though he had been cruel to her, she understood what it felt like to be on the sidelines, without support. Maybe it was her way of dealing with the pain. Maybe it was compassion. She decided to do what no one else would. She went to the hospital where Leonardo was staying. When she saw him for the first time after the accident, he was lying in bed with a vacant look in his eyes. His face was pale, and his usually arrogant eyes were filled with frustration and despair. "Do you need anything, Mr. Moretti?" Clara asked, trying to hide the tension she felt. Leonardo looked at her with anger but said nothing. He was defeated, trapped in his own body. Clara, without hesitating, pulled up a chair and sat beside his bed. "I brought your medication," she said calmly, feeling compelled to help, to at least ease some of his pain. She knew the help of a stranger was all he had left. To her surprise, he didn't refuse. In the days that followed, Clara visited Leonardo regularly. At first, he tried to remain distant and arrogant, but gradually he began to open up. He asked her about her life, about how she had ended up there, and Clara shared her struggles and accomplishments. She treated him with a dignity he had rarely shown to anyone. Over time, Leonardo's anger began to fade. He started to realize that the humiliation he inflicted on others was just a way to hide his own insecurities and fear of failure. Slowly, he grew to admire Clara for the strength and courage she displayed. Leonardo's recovery was slow, but as his body began to heal, something deeper was happening within him. He was starting to realize, in an uncomfortable way, that he had been a cruel man, not just to Clara, but to everyone around him. Clara, the woman he had belittled, was the only one treating him with humanity. What bothered him the most was how she saw him differently, not as a ruthless billionaire, but as a man who, deep down, longed for something he had never known how to seek: genuine connection. One quiet afternoon, as Clara helped him out of his wheelchair for a physical therapy session, Leonardo spoke, almost to himself, "I never thought I'd be depending on someone, and I never thought that someone would be you." Clara, with a gentle smile, replied, "Sometimes, it takes a fall to understand what really matters." After weeks of recovery, the day finally came. Leonardo, still with physical limitations, decided to return to work. His team awaited his return, but nothing could have prepared them for the man he was now. The once arrogant CEO who ruled with an iron fist was now more aware of his flaws, more humble and introspective. On the morning of his return, he called an urgent meeting in Blackstone's main hall. Clara was there, along with other employees, unsure of what to expect. The room was thick with uncertainty. When Leonardo entered, there was a stillness in the air. He looked different. His impeccably tailored suit still made him appear imposing, but his eyes, once cold and distant, now held a sincerity no one had thought possible. He walked to the conference table, but instead of taking his usual seat, he looked around at everyone. Silence hung heavily until he began to speak. "I know everyone expects me to say something about my return, maybe a plan for new projects or Blackstone's growth targets, but today, I need to share something far more important. I need to start with an apology." Leonardo's words took everyone by surprise, especially Clara. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. "For years, I treated many of you with disrespect. I was authoritarian, arrogant, and, above all, insensitive. I treated people like pieces on a chessboard, allowing myself to lose my humanity in the belief that power and control were the only things that mattered. I can't continue like this." Clara felt a lump in her throat but stayed silent, listening intently. What he was saying sounded genuine, but she wasn't sure if she could fully believe it. "Clara," he said, turning to her, his voice now softer, "you're the one who showed me the true meaning of humanity and respect. I can't look at others the same way anymore. Today, I publicly apologize to you for everything I did. I know my words hurt you, and I'm truly sorry." Clara's gaze softened. She knew he was trying, even if the change felt sudden. She studied him for a moment before responding calmly, "I accept your apology, Leonardo. And more than that, I understand. We all make mistakes. But what matters is what we do afterward." A collective sigh broke the silence. The tension that had hung over everyone now seemed to lift. It was the start of a new era for Blackstone Corporation, and everyone could feel it. Leonardo didn't stop there. He continued, with resolve, "To make amends, I'm implementing real changes. Blackstone is not just my company. It belongs to everyone who makes it thrive. From now on, we'll have new programs focused on employee appreciation. We'll prioritize inclusion and well-being. And above all, we'll recognize the effort and contributions of every person, no matter their position. Leonardo's words had a profound impact on the Blackstone team. The change he had promised quickly started taking shape. He created internal committees to evaluate workplace quality and benefits programs, with Clara taking a prominent role in this new initiative. The idea of working in an environment where people were seen as more than just numbers in the balance sheet seemed almost utopian, but slowly, it was becoming reality. Leonardo's commitment to change was clear. He now made himself available for informal conversations with employees, a gesture he had never shown before. Meetings became more open, and communication between teams became more fluid and honest. The company was gradually transforming, and everyone began to feel more valued and respected. For Clara, the promotion to a leadership position was a natural progression. She was invited to head Blackstone's new Ethics and Inclusion Committee, giving her the chance to finally implement changes she had always believed were necessary. She worked alongside Leonardo, now her partner, to build a healthier, more collaborative environment. The impact of this transformation was remarkable. Company productivity soared, and employee morale skyrocketed. Those who had once felt invisible were now recognized and rewarded for their hard work. Clara, with her intelligence and dedication, became one of Blackstone's top leaders, respected not only for her competence but also for the way she had always treated people. Leonardo, for his part, continued his journey of self-discovery, participating in training on empathetic leadership and learning how to be a true leader. The arrogance that had once defined him faded, replaced by a humility he had never imagined himself capable of feeling. In the months that followed, Blackstone Corporation became a model of ethical and responsible business practices, a place where respect and collaboration took priority. Leonardo and Clara, now bound by mutual admiration and respect, knew that their own personal transformations, not just that of the company, were the true legacy of their journey. The story of Clara and Leonardo is more than just a lesson in forgiveness. It's a story of transformation. It shows that true strength doesn't lie in dominance, but in the courage to recognize one's own mistakes and strive for personal growth. Leonardo's journey from arrogance to empathetic leadership was fueled by Clara's bravery in offering him exactly what he needed, even in the face of humiliation. Understanding. In the end, both discovered that the greatest power lies in the ability to value one another, in humility and in mutual respect.